I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, September 1st meeting of the Monmouth City Council and ask Phyllis for a roll call, please.
Counselor Carey?
Here.
Counselor Guthrie?
Here.
Counselor Johnson?
Here.
Counselor Milligan?
Here.
Counselor Schaefer?
I'm here.
Counselor Silbernagel?
Here.
Mayor Oberst?
Yes. All rise for the flag salute, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for that. Single item consent calendar tonight consisting of the minutes from our council meeting on August 18th, which may go down as the shortest meeting in my 8+ years as mayor. I think it was adjourned at 7:22. So,
Wow.
any comments on those minutes or a motion to approve?
I move approval as written.
Second. Moved and seconded. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? With that, I'll turn to reports. Real short mayor's report. The day after our last council meeting was the Mayor's Coalition over in Dallas. Mayor Dalton hosted a variety of mayors from Polk, Marion, and Yamhill counties, and we just have a social opportunity in the evening to get together and have a nice meal and talk about what's going on in our cities. So I heard about some folks that were running short on water and others that seem to be making it through this dry spell pretty well. So that was one of the major topics of conversation, is how water's holding out. And, at least Carlton was glad that their water line crosses with McMinnville's, and McMinnville's reservoir is uphill because theirs is running very low and they had a chance to tap in.
Is that a 4-way stop there, that crossing?
No, it's all downhill. Okay, so that's it. It was a nice evening. And with that, I'd like to turn to reports from council reps to boards and commissions, and Councilor Silbernagel, the Senior Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senior Advisory Board met on August 25th. As we mentioned at the last meeting, they received the Ford Foundation $90,000, so that puts them at above their goal, actually, of $425,000 towards that project.
That's Ford Family Foundation, right?
Ford Family Foundation,
Okay.
yes. And so if the bids come in on budget, which is always an if, they'd like to do some additional storage, maybe a solarium, and they got some kitchen appliances they'd like to replace. So we'll see how that all plays out over time. New Horizons Willamette Valley Orchestra on Mondays that the school district is closed. They're going to be practicing there at the senior center going forward. You can make a change for life, so it's a diabetes or pre-diabetes program that's going in place. I guess it normally costs like $469, and they've got a grant that will reduce it down to about $20 per person. And it's basically how to prevent diabetes. They're going to meet. The first one is, so you need to sign up if you're interested, 4 to 5 p.m. on Thursday, September 10th. There's no age requirement. It's 16 weeks, once a week, and then after that it'll be once a month for a while. And we have a new board member application coming our way, so
Yeah, I got that just before I left town for almost 2 weeks. So we'll have that next time.
Then. Yep, sounds good. All kinds of stuff still going on. So was a very active meeting, actually a longer meeting. We almost went 2 hours, I think, this last time. So.
Excited.
Yes. Oh, let's see. Celebration of the Grant Monday is Thursday, October 8th, 5 to 7 p.m. So you might mark your calendars, folks. That concludes my report.
Okay. Councilor Milligan.
The Arts and Culture Commission did not meet in August, so I have no report.
Okay. Councilor Johnson. Planning Commission.
Planning Commission's been on summer break.
Okay. Councilor Carey.
MyNet board, on the other hand, is back from their summer break, back hard at it. The MyNet board met on August 27th and had the usual agenda items. However, we did have a presentation from Buzz Braza, the new chair of the Finance Committee. And judging by his enthusiasm, his organization, and other things, I think we can expect some good things from the Finance Committee. The usual, budgetary assistance, advice on various things and so on, but also they're interested in beginning to explore and perhaps vet some possible enterprise opportunities to increase revenues there. So that's good. But to me, the encouraging piece was that I believe that's going to be a really valuable asset, as we'd anticipated that it would be. So there's room for optimism. We had discussion in our retreat, and then we sort of approved the code of conduct, which really, it's not so much that we need a code of conduct, but it's a matter of definition of how we communicate with one another internally, with MyNet staff, the public relative to MyNet information. So I think that was good. Scott drafted that, and with a few tweaks, it was accepted and appreciated. We're going to be going back and revisiting a consultant that back in 2003, MyNet contracted with Doug Dawson. He's a consultant back in Maryland, and apparently is certified smart in the video, internet, all of these sorts of things that MyNet does, cable companies in effect. And he did a fairly extensive report in 13, and many of the things that were embedded in that have been done, but I think we'd like to have a check-in perhaps with him to see what his opinion of what has been done, and then what might also be done to improve the stability and financial situation and organization, frankly, of MyNet. The financial report was that MyNet continues to be stable in terms of paying all of their bills. They're making money, albeit not a lot, but they're making a decent amount of money. They have had some difficulties with their email system. The MyNet Fiber email has been really difficult and a problem, and I think the target, it may have been fixed by now, but I think the target was like September 4 was what they were hoping. That was sort of the far end date that they would have that resolved. So it has to do with blade servers, and they're talking tongues when they start talking that stuff. But nonetheless, they're aware of the problem, and I'm hoping that they're going to have that rectified soon.
Okay.
That's more than you wanted. But that's it.
That's perfect, John. Thank you. Any community announcements tonight? And hearing none, I'll turn to the manager and see what he's got up.
Yep, thanks. Just a couple of things that follow up on the senior center. One of the things we wondered was how complete the plans were, if we need any updating, if you need to get down to the details. We found out almost all the details are there, including finishes, cabinetry, et cetera, et cetera. So we think we could be able to move on that, get it out on the street pretty quickly. We thought it might be some time to cut through those things, make some decisions, but it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Music in the Park, just a report, it just gets better each year. Our last event there, we think we were kind of at the ballpark like 550 people.
That was a good one.
And I think if people can remember back when we took it over, we had some times there was like 40, just kind of barely out there. So it's really taken off. The Pass the Hat was the highest we've ever had on any given year too. So people are throwing money to support that too. So that's going to be great. Next year it'll be in the facilities.
Viewing was getting harder and harder if you show up late, I found out.
Oh yeah,
I was
you definitely
back
you can get
really
yeah,
far, almost to the
you got the
bathrooms.
upper deck and everything going. So. Yeah, so it's kind of good. And then just a construction project. Probably people don't go out Church Street that often, but the Mistletoe subdivision, they do have that opened up, and there's a little bit of detour and flagging going on there. So, if you're heading out, you need to go out to the mountains. That might slow you down a little bit. So.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. We have a guest report tonight from the Polk County Fire District #1. And if you could give us your name and city for the record, and then
Thank you,
tell us
Mr. Mayor,
what you got
Council.
going.
My name is Neil Olson. I am the Deputy Chief Polk County Fire District number 1, and it was requested from our board of directors that I offer up a brief presentation, potentially brief. It can get long, depending on questions. But since there was quite a shakeup in our community back in July when we had the big wildland fire out on Holmes Road, so I brought a slideshow. I can show you some pictures, and words are limited if you want. But yeah, I can take you through and kind of show you what we've got there, and I'm definitely open to any questions that you have, since it did throw off the community a little bit. There was lots of fear and panic, as it were, it seems, thanks to social media. All right.
You go ahead and kill this earlier too. Yeah, that's what.
So July 24th, call came in at 2:08 at 6893. Initially, that came in as a low-risk grass fire, and that only elicits a single-engine response. So initially, that came in for just one fire engine, and as they were pulling out of the apparatus bay, they looked and saw a fairly substantial column of smoke and decided to upgrade that to a high-risk grass fire. In final, I got the reports from the Department of Forestry. It was actually, they approximated it at 59.8 acres. So that was pretty precise approximation there. It was a combination wildland grass, wheat field fire. It started from a combine that had, it was this combine that had started it initially. Alarm level 3, there's various alarms. We put it at a level 3 because we just simply don't go any higher than that on our pre-arranged dispatches. So it actually, based on the number of apparatus that were there, it was a 7 to a 9 alarm fire. There were no structures involved. Talked with Mr. Landau at the city, and to get a final, more accurate number than just my ballpark guessing, we figured that we used about 300,000 gallons of water that we were pulling off of the hydrant at Whitman. Personnel, we had 36 personnel on scene. We had probably 15 that were remaining back at the station, doing some other odd jobs and kind of doing some support functions and roles. 85 mutual personnel, and for about 121. That doesn't include law enforcement and some of the other folks. Agencies that we did get help from, and we have really good arrangements with our neighbors and our neighbors' neighbors, which we had to rely on, and actually our neighbors' neighbors' neighbors. We had, just from Polk County proper, we had Polk County Fire District, Dallas Fire, Southwest Polk, Salem sent a brush rig over. Yamhill County sent Amity, Newburgh, Sheridan, and West Valley. Benton County sent Adair, Corvallis, Kings Valley, Philomath, and Monroe. Came all the way up. Marion County Fire District, Kaiser, Staten, and Silverton. We had Oregon Department of Forestry, Polk County Sheriff's Office, Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office, and Willamette Valley Communications had sent out a dispatcher just in case we needed some additional communications out there. So, and Lincoln, Washington, and Lane counties had assembled strike teams, and I think more and more folks are familiar with strike teams and task forces now at the end of this summer, as they have been in the previous years based on all the conflagrations. But we had 5 pieces of equipment coming from each of those counties. They were moving this way before we got the fire under control and got to cancel them. So Dome's Timber had brought in a cat. There was a private logging operation that was going on just about 200 yards from this place, and so he brought his cat out there. We did have a helicopter from Terra Aviation that came. I believe that was the one that had landed at the university that kind of scared some folks, and why are helicopters landing? Miller Timber Services, they did bring out 2 hand crews. They have some crews that are specifically trained to get out and into the forested lands, and primarily that's for falling trees. They had several fallers. That is not our area of expertise, and that's a really dangerous operation, cutting trees down that have been or are on fire, and that's not something we wanted to risk, so we took that and ordered those crews up. At the time of the incident, it was 81 degrees, and it was 31% humidity at 2:56, so just before 3 o'clock, and then just before 4 o'clock, it had dropped to 26%, and the winds had kicked up too. So we were dealing with, initially we were dealing with a dropping humidity, increasing temperature, and increasing winds. Winds at that time were northwest at 10.5 miles an hour. When we arrived on scene, this white line through the middle is Ohms Road, and at the top is Fishback, kind of comes to that top left corner, and Monmouth Highway there out on the top right. The combine was right in this area. This is a tree. Combine was right here, and there was a truck right behind it. And this is about what was on fire when we arrived for our first engine company. I was on the second engine company, and I arrived 12 minutes later, and we had gone from 4 acres to about 8. Our only access was coming down this way, and you can't tell from here, but this is uphill. So the wind was blowing to the north, it's coming uphill, so we did have to work around and kind of come through some of the fire to get down into what we call fighting the fire from the black. So we like to get into where it's already burned, so we don't burn our stuff up. But that's kind of a tricky operation when you have to drive through the fire to get into that place, which did cause a little bit of damage to one of our trucks. After it was all done and over with, this red area is what had burned. The main area had come up here. I don't remember what the acreage was on that. We had 2 spot fires here that were real small. This was a spot fire that had took off. This one was a spot that came from here, and this was actually started from the helicopter when they had set down to hook up their bucket. The static discharge from the rotors caught the field on fire, so the pilot, in a fairly big hurry, jumped back in and throttled up and took off, and had to figure out a different way to get his bucket hooked up. But so you can see we had several different operations going. So we broke this into 3 different divisions: Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie division. So kind of separating our crews out there. Let's see. All right. Like I said, I was on the second engine. This is the first. This is just as we're arriving here. We've got 1 engine and the grass rig over the ridge there, and the duty officers on site. So we had decent smoke coming. It's kind of scary not knowing what's going off down there. Our goal initially was to just keep it in the field and not let it get into the timber, but that didn't work. So we did get some fire going there, just a little bit, just so you guys can see. This is just at the crest there, that ridge, where you can see the combine over here, and then the hay truck, and then there was one of our trucks was down there working, and this is looking back up. This is right here is where our engine had come through. And this area here was burning. They were trying to come in and put the fire out, a little part of that wall of fire. And they were flowing some water there, and that's why you see that straw is. And then it was all wheat field. It was all in windrows. So yeah, when they were coming down initially, the flames were approximately 2 to 3 feet, and the winds were really negligible. And then they got out, pulled some hose, the winds kicked up, and the flames went to 6 to 8 feet. So it really changed in a hurry. Here's one of the photos from the helicopter. This is that field that initially had started up here, and this is to the west, up at the top, and then you have the residence down here where the command post had been set up. And there's another photo from off in the distance. And this is the west side. So this picture is taken from the west. Sorry, that's the east side there. Follow-up, we did an after-action report with the sheriff's office, we'll have communication, county emergency manager, Dallas Fire, Oregon Department of Forestry, Fire Marshal's office. We did clarify some evacuation terminology. That was a miscommunication between all of our agencies. We have resource books. Evacuation terminology, ever since 9/11, when we've tried to get everything together and have common terminology, it just still isn't there. So there's 3 different ways that people are talking about evacuations: law enforcement, forestry, and FEMA, and the fire service. The Forest Service is using Ready, Set, Go, and it's kind of synonymous with level 1, level 2, and level 3, and then green, yellow, and red. So we're just trying to just put that out there for our folks so they kind of know where we are there. Actions and considerations. We did use 10 different radio frequencies, so that had taxed our system a little bit, and some of our folks were working on multiple radios. Each division had a different channel. See if there's anything. We were able to, it was something that we hadn't talked about previously, we hadn't thought about, but we were able to, ways beyond me, get communication with the helicopter, so they were able to live feed their news cameras to a computer, so our incident commanders were able to see exactly what was happening in real time on the ground to better deploy those resources. So that's been real good. In the past, the best thing that we've been able to do is to watch the news and see what's happening, but there's a delay there, so it was really nice for them to be able to do that with us.
Gotta get that drone out.
Yeah, you know, those drones, there is a lot of talk in the wildland arena with drones, because anytime, right now the FAA says anytime there's a drone in the air, helicopters are grounded. So that's created a lot of trouble out there. The helicopter here was really invaluable, and I'll show you, if you guys would like, just a quick video of some of what we had going on. Maybe not. All right, well, anyway, just from my perspective, and I've been here for 18 years, this is the largest wildland fire that we've had, and I've had lots of grass fires, some little things out in the woods and stuff, but never to the point where 40, 50, 60-foot trees were just torching off like Roman candles. I mean, I was real comfortable in the field, and then they were asking us, make sure you keep it out of the timber, keep it out of the timber, and I heard and looked over to the side, and there an ember or something had gone off into the trees, and there was a tree just torched off. And said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do now. So forestry, it was there, and so we did have some pictures. There's a couple of times where several of our folks had taken some pictures with their cell phones, and it was like, well, what are you doing just standing around? Well, there's nothing else we could do. We had run out of water from the initial attack. We had we're in a spot where we didn't have the resources to attack it, so having that helicopter come down and get in there and dump water into those timbered areas was really beneficial. So.
Did that 300,000 gallons of water include the helicopter's water use dropping?
That didn't include his, no. He was dipping out of ponds that were on site, so all that was just the local water. That was 300,000 gallons that we were using from the city, so yeah.
Some, if drought conditions like this eventually prove out to be the new normal, which who knows? I mean, this could be a one-off year or not. Do you guys foresee maybe a large tanker truck as a worthwhile purchase?
We actually have 3 tenders.
And you used them all?
And we used them all. We had 10 on site.
Okay.
So, and we had pulled, Amity had brought a tender, Monroe had brought a tender. We were just calling for those. Being an unhydranted area,
Right. No.
we got to bring that water out. And so just the three tenders that we have, they're all 3,000 gallons. So we had 9,000 gallons initially arriving. So that was,
What kind of fill time on those? And this, would there, you know, do you wish we had a way to fill them faster?
we can fill them pretty quickly. The problem in this situation is we have what's called a turnaround time. So you have to go from the time that you empty your tank, drive time, fill your tank,
Drive back out.
drive back out. That Ohms Road is a one-way in, one-way out. And there, we would have to wait for any vehicles coming up,
Sure.
and then they would go. So there were times when the tenders were waiting 10 minutes, just sitting there in order to get out. And then, of course, then you've got full trucks coming in.
Not much to do with that.
No.
Right.
So we were filling fine. We had trucks standing by, but
Right.
we just weren't able to get them go. So you'd have this big blast of water and then nothing.
Well, wasn't there an auto accident at Fishback and Monticello? So I thought someone said that there had been an auto accident that also created some congestion.
There had been an accident at Hoffman Road and Riddle Road. I don't know about one that was
Okay,
at
maybe that was,
Fishback.
yeah.
Yeah, there was, and I was, like I said, I was out on one of the engines, and so I was hearing a motor vehicle accident, and I had to turn that off because I couldn't focus on what I was doing and think about a car accident, you know.
Yeah.
Right. Very good.
So you were pretty stretched about as far as you could get at that point in time?
Yeah, we really were. We had some folks had come in off duty and were standing by. Our volunteers, some of them had dropped what they were doing. I think this was Friday afternoon, so some of them were left work early. Yeah, just bringing all kinds of folks in. And we did have, just kind of add to that, we did send a crew over to John Day a couple weeks ago, and they were gone. So we have 10 career folks that are on shift. So 3 are on each day, and then we have 1 that works during the daytime. So we had 3 that were gone to John Day for 8 days, and then had some guys backfilling for them. So that was, that stretched us a little thin too.
Sure.
So, yeah. And last thing, we have a new fire chief that's gonna start on next Tuesday, the 8th, Al Alcalde. And so we'll see if he can get him down here for a meeting and introduce him to you guys. So.
Glad to have you.
Are you looking for volunteers to come out and volunteer for the
We're
program?
always looking for volunteers. You bet, you bet. Yeah, if we could find somebody that was young and healthy and unemployed and was able to dedicate 24 hours a day to volunteer response, that'd be great.
Fire.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Neil. And with that, we will turn to a report on the status of the amphitheater project. I'm willing to bet that would be you, Russ.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. We've got a great project sitting on the horizon, and I thought this was an appropriate time to come in and give you an update on progress and where we're at with the bids on that project. On July 29th, we advertised for the solicitation of bids for the project. About a week later, we held what we call a mandatory pre-bid meeting. The purpose of that meeting is to identify who are those contractors that are going to be bidding on the project. It also gives us a chance to get an overview on site with them so we know they've been on site, as well as answer any questions that they may have as they're preparing their bids. Gives them another 2 weeks after that mandatory meeting in which to look at the plans, the specifications, all the materials, and come up with more questions. We fielded a number of questions, a couple of requests for substitutions of materials, like roofing or fixtures in the bathrooms, things like that. So we answered those questions on the 20th. We received 7 bids for the project. I was happy with that. Wasn't sure what to expect at first. The low bid we received was from a contractor out of Eugene, Oregon, Essex General Contracting. Their bid came in at $1.168 million. If you recall, the project funding package that you approved before that was a $1.222 million. That the funding package you approved had a 10% contingency built into that. So with us starting this project, some of that contingency has been used up. We'll be starting this project with just under 5% construction contingency. Staff's not excited to go into a project with a contingency like that, but I think we're up for the challenge to see if we can keep this project on task and on budget. Last Thursday, I issued the notice of intent to award the project. There's a 7-day challenge period for any contractor that may want to challenge our bidding process. I'm not expecting any challenges, so early next week we should be able to issue an award for that project. It's a little early to declare when a contractor would break ground. We'll have some time negotiating the contract, getting that finalized, them getting their paperwork in order to mobilize. The references on the contractor that I've checked in on are all good. Concrete work is their bread and butter, and they're very good at it. And this project has a lot of concrete work associated with it, so I think that's why they were able to be very competitive on the project. So looking forward to it. Great project. It's going to require us to keep a good close eye on it. But again, it's one of those premier great projects again for our downtown core, and we're looking forward to having some events in it next summer. So if you have any questions, be happy to answer those. Maybe.
Groundbreaking plus or minus 2 or 3 weeks, like September, October, November.
I'm going to say late November, November 1st maybe.
Late October.
Hate to go on record.
Late October.
Yeah, late October.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the high bid?
1.5 and some change.
Well,
I think you also had a house removal too?
We solicited bids for that. We had one interested party, so that is in process right now. The details of that are being worked out. There's some current tenants that
we are aware. Got a nice email from Marshall last week saying, "That's right, we need to start thinking about where we're going to put this stuff."
Yeah.
So yeah, we will.
I think I volunteered that a dumpster would be a good place to start.
Yeah, some of it, that's true. That's absolutely true. So there are pieces of technology that are, what, 2 or 3 generations out of date in that building. So, yeah. Well,
are they going to tear it down, or are they going to move it as a unit?
they'll lift it up and move it as a unit.
Okay.
And the nice one, they actually have a lot in Monmouth that they're going to move it to.
oh, cool. Where's that going to be?
Clay Street, Clay near Stadium.
Okay.
Yep, so it's actually just being relocated.
Very
It's just
good.
going for a walk.
And they're taking the foundation with them too, right?
That's kind of hard.
Yeah.
That'll go with the bathroom.
Okay. Very good, very good.
Here we thought that building was known to be interested.
Right. Yeah, that's good. And is it just take it off our hands, or?
No, actually, it was a
$561, I think it was.
We're paying them or they're paying us? Yeah?
our money.
Okay.
Cash.
Very good.
Permit.
Okay. Anything else on the amphitheater, Council? Want to hit Russ with while we've got him? Okay.
Thank you.
Very good, Russ. Thank you. Any citizen comments tonight? Seeing none, we will turn to the single item business agenda, which is the Monmouth Engaged report. We have been, as a city, engaged with our consultant in asking the citizens of our fair city exactly what things they'd like to see us focusing on, and we have a final report from Barney Orth. Maybe?
Yeah, just thinking.
Scott, would it be okay for the steering committee members to review the
Yeah,
themselves?
that'd be good.
Do the steering committee members like to introduce themselves while we work on technology? Sure. You want to start? Yes, please, yeah.
My name's Kathy Watson, and I was on the steering committee as a citizen at large.
Okay.
Wendy Hudson, also a citizen at large on the committee.
Judy Vandenberg, I guess I was representing the university. Cease Coots, and I think high up there, representing the school district.
What's the word?
Yeah, we're getting, it's getting better. We have some.
We have light.
We have
Suddenly
light.
Oh, okay.
No signal.
That's the interesting one. You know, something detached. They're probably to help us. Oh, this is not gonna help any. We can do it the hard way.
What did you do to it, Neil?
Yeah, the zip drive stuck in there.
You know, I don't know. I always do that.
Maybe we need a helicopter.
So this is down.
Kind of the Midas touch there. Really anti-Midas.
Oh, Marshall.
This is us.
Councilman Guthrie has a real knack for making things
They went to sleep.
That I can't fix. I don't know the password, but
Passwords beyond that.
no, it's not.
You know, work around.
So, the trick is you can't see anything there, so
So,
work your command.
okay, let me see.
Yeah.
Is it right here?
There you go.
Yay.
Very good.
See?
Let there be less light.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
So I wanted to start out, thank you for the steering committee. This was a great project, a lot of citizen involvement. We'll talk about that in a bit, but it couldn't have happened without the steering committee and the advice that they gave us along the way. We started out this process, I remember being in this room when all of you interviewed us and you said engagement is the most important thing that we can do here. It's more important than the plan is that we engage the community in building a vision. And what resulted in that is more than 1,400 residents, students, visitors, business owners participated. And if you think about this number, I'm doing a project in the city of Vancouver, Washington that has 180,000 people, and we got 2,000 surveys returned. So this is a very big number, and we think it shows how interested your community was in working on this vision. We did stakeholder interviews, we had 2 surveys. Here's a picture there of the kickoff event we had at UC-BC, and Tom Jones, I wanted to thank him too for hosting that and providing pizza and prizes. We had a second community survey, again 611 respondents, and that was not a simple survey, that was a 2-pager, and so that was also a great number, and over 40 people who came to the Next Step event. I just wanted to briefly go over the results of both surveys. When we asked what makes Monmouth special, you can see the 2 top choices were small town character and college town, and this carried throughout the entire engagement process. That those 2 characters are very strongly felt by your residents. when we asked what was missing, grocery store topped the list by a bunch. A lot of people wish that there was a grocery store with vegetables and fruits and things you could walk to from campus or walk to from the community, restaurants, and then community events, places to hang out and do things. It's fun to hear that the amphitheater is coming. I think it's exactly what people are asking for. Also, what was interesting for us is what didn't come up in this survey, and that was no crime issues, no college student problems like you would see if you did a survey in Corvallis. You know, no student housing issues, no social service needs. And that's not saying that these things don't exist here, but that in other communities, those would surely have come up and been in some of your top line results. From these, the first survey, 4 themes emerged, and one of them was to improve the connections between the university and the community. The second one was become more bike and pedestrian friendly, and that included things like improving safety, sidewalks, crossings, things I might classify as transportation, but mostly about bikes and pedestrian improvement. More community gathering places, and again, surprisingly, lots of people said that they would like your city hall to be improved. That if Independence has a nice city hall, then Monmouth should have one too, and that place for the community to have events and kind of a heart of the community. And then attract more retail and restaurants. We did a quick economic look at Monmouth before we started, and you do have a lot of retail leakage, so people are going other places to buy things, and I think this shows there is an interest in doing more of that here in Monmouth. And then a community vision. So we looked through all of the responses, and people really spent time writing down their thoughts and ideas, and this vision emerged with a state university at its center. Monmouth is a smart college town, welcoming, safe, well-maintained, tree-lined, relaxed, with historic roots, a great place to start a business or raise a family. It's close to places you want to go and also connected to the world, and who wouldn't want to live here? People love living here. Of those 4 vision priorities, this is how they ranked when we asked people if they, first we asked them to decide if they would love the vision or would they support it, or if it just wasn't their vision at all. And you can see the numbers. If you add love this vision and would support it together, 96% of the respondents said attracting retail and restaurants was a vision that they supported. University and community connections, 94%. Bicycle pedestrian friend, 91%. And even your lowest scoring priority, which was community gathering places, 83% of the respondents said they would love it or support it. And then with advice from the steering committee that said, yeah, it's great if you love it, but would you be willing to pay for it? So we asked that if they'd be willing to volunteer or pay. And the numbers on the right-hand column is the number of people who said that they were willing to volunteer or pay. So you can see, over 200. In most columns, it's 270, the most for university and community connections. But even gathering places has quite a number of people who would support it financially or to volunteer. These are just a brief overview of what people were saying about each of these visions. So attract more retail and restaurants, please make this happen. And then here are the type of things that they were talking about, which is grocery stores, restaurants, ideas for how you could bring business in, mixed use, an international mall. So they have some ideas about what they'd like to see. Improve connections between the university and community. The university is seen as an asset. There was quite a bit of comment too that this is a two-way street, so between the university and the community jointly working together to achieve some of these activities. seek more College Town amenities, better signage and waysigning. When I came in today, I saw you have a banner on your street today that has both logos on it, welcoming students. Bicycle friendly, I talked about this already a bit, that this is really about making Monmouth more friendly transportation-wise. So more bicycles, safer sidewalks. Highway 99 came up quite a bit as an unsafe crossings. And also there was I would say, I don't have it on here, but I should have. There were quite a few residents who said people who ride bikes should follow the rules, and that there should be more rule following with bike riders. And finally, building and improving community gathering place and amenities. There is a strong sense that there isn't a place for families and kids to hang out. You know, a YMCA, a place that, updated city hall, a place that you could have community events. This is photos from the Next Step event. 23 community members volunteered, and then you can see people signing up to be further involved in implementing the vision. So now we come to the point where you have a plan, you have an idea about what the community would like to focus on, but how do you move it forward? And I wanted to share with you, we shared this with the steering committee, different ways that communities have moved visions forward. This is Cottage Grove they have vision keepers. And this is chaired by, when I was working on it, was chaired by the hospital. And the vice chair was also from a partner organization. And then it had lead partners. So the city staff was supporting it, but the majority of the structure was partner oriented. Salem Vision 2020. This was for downtown Salem. The chair was the mayor at the time, and the vice chair was somebody from Willamette University. But the project leads were all from partner organizations with who they themselves organized work groups. But city staff supported both the main structure, the chair and the vice chair, and the city also provided staff to support the small work groups. In Independence, and I think that they did a great job of integrating their vision with their city council. So for example, they had regular meetings to report back to city council about their actions moving forward. When we shared this with the steering committee, they thought that using a structure that's already in place here in Monmouth, which is a commission-oriented group, so it would be the Monmouth Engaged Commission. We're just making that up. It could have a different name. That commission would be supported like your other commissions are here. But then you would have these subgroups of the 4 topics that the community is interested in pursuing. So you'd have your engagement commission. It could be founded initially with steering committee members, and then they would build these subcommittees that you would enlist partner organization and determine their scope of work. And they would work more independently from the Monmouth Engaged Commission, but there would be feedback and forth from your subgroups and your commission. And that, do you have anything you'd like to add to that? You want?
So can you tell the council how many email connections you have as a result of this engaged process?
Yeah, we have over 700 email contacts, people who left their emails that said that they wanted to stay involved and learn more.
And then how many people at the Next Step signed up?
We had 23 people who put their names down for one of the themes, and they're equally, some of them signed up for a number of them, but there's about 10 people collect for each of the program areas. And I think I don't know everybody in Monmouth, but it looked like somebody had said that there were people who came that aren't normally at community events. There were new, young families and others who
Yes,
attended.
I saw the new faces for sure.
Are there any questions? Not so far. Oh, this is where you have city council discussion.
Thank you for the cue.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. This guy, I'm gonna take some words. So, as council, anybody have any questions, comments, et cetera? I'm excited about the prospect of having a new city board dedicated to supporting these 4 areas and trying to move this thing on forward. The 4 areas that we're settled on, I think, are spot on things that the city needs. Some are maybe a little outside of city government sweet spot. Bike ped safety is something that I think is a natural for cities to work on. Maybe recruiting restaurants and retail is a little bit outside of what we would ordinarily do, but you set up a commission in these subgroups, and I think there's a real good chance of moving this thing forward. I thought before we're amazingly close already to bicycle-friendly community status. We've got a number of things in place already, but with just a little effort, we could actually, there's a group out there that gives you the sign to hang when you're in bike-friendly city. So, anyway. So with that, anybody have anything to tag onto that, or?
I just think it gives us a pretty clear picture of a path that a lot of us have been talking about heading down, specifically bike safety. And it was good to hear the community was in support of a couple things that we've been kind of bouncing back and forth. But best thing is just the remarkable numbers of people coming out. I think we definitely need to
don't let them get away.
Take some action and make this happen and take advantage of the great support that the citizens want to put in. So hopefully we will work hard to make this happen as quickly as possible.
Well, I see you have a question written down. Do you want to?
Oh, well, I wrote some things down. And again, one thing I see is that we've already discussed a lot of these items beforehand, which is really good that they were brought out by the people, so we're not the only ones that are focused, is what we're saying. The restaurants and stuff, that's private money. And they're all built on who will use it, how often it will be used. It's all hours, times, people, amount of money spent. And I know that the Chamber of Commerce, for a fact, has put that information out a couple of times for different outfits. So we must not meet the criteria for some of these bigger restaurants to come in. We can just keep trying, that's what I'm saying. That's really not a city item. They have to find the property, build a building. You can give them some help a little on that, but as far as having a restaurant. And I've heard that, and I've lived here for 42 years, and I've heard that since the day I came here. Where's the restaurants? And we lost our only grocery store. But that's another item you can fight to bring back. I know it's not going to be nice to have one here in town, but it's not our money. I mean, I really like the vision. I think it's a good deal. I think we need people to maybe write some of these companies that put out things. Winco maybe expand, be a bigger market than what they have in Independence, but we're only 1 block away. The only city limits is 1 block, but that gives us more food. I'm just saying, I think it's a great idea. I think the ideas you have there, just some of it, our hands are tied. Other ones are like this steering committee could write letters to see if people would come here to see about it. So that's my theory.
One thing I think the city could do is, for instance, you talk about the criteria that a developer might use to determine whether or not they're going to start a business in town. I think it'd be really interesting to talk with the chamber and maybe find out what they know about those criteria and what we could be doing to meet them. Just not to get too granular with this, but one of the things that I'm thinking about is something the city could do is in partnership with the chamber, is something like an Eat Local campaign. I know I'm guilty of this. We're supposed to go out and eat a dinner. Well, I start thinking about Ventis in Salem, or we're going to go up to Hotel Oregon in McMinnville. It's like, what the heck am I doing? We should be over at Mangiari's in Independence, or down here at the pub, or at Eastie. And so one thing the city could do is get that message out there about, hey, you don't need to spend a bunch of gas getting to Salem. We got perfectly fine restaurants in town, and you'll have a great time if you go there. So I'm not saying that that's a silver bullet that, I'm not saying that's a silver bullet that's going to make the grocery store or the next restaurant come to town, but I think that it's easy to get disheartened and say we're just a city, we can't build a grocery store. It's true, we can't, but we can do something.
So I'd like to kind of jump in here. One of the things that I like to see us do is not do the committee's work tonight.
Right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And actually start to look at, timing, like how long would it take us to get the ordinance enacted to create the commission? And then, because we've got names of people who are ready to go. There's people who, unlike some of us, might be discouraged about a grocery store or businesses, that they're not.
Right.
So to get their enthusiasm. And so that's what I'd like to do is maybe have at our next work session, not tonight's work session, but the next one, where we really talk about how do we want that commission shaped, so that we can maybe by the first of the year have everything in place for the commission to get going, and then people can, so that we're not like next summer that we start where people are waiting a year for their name to get called and utilized, and so that the community knows that we're actually, that the steering committee didn't do something to just have it be a piece of paper on a shelf.
Right.
That it's actually a working, living
Right.
Organism.
I don't think we need to wait till the first of the year. It seems like we have the characters. You just need to give them some scope.
Yeah,
and
I don't think it would take that much.
Yeah,
I think we could
get going.
schedule, we could start talking some options. I could come up with 16 to 24 options, and I could develop a matrix, you guys can analyze it.
No.
Yeah, we don't need to do that. So, I think we can actually get going fairly quick on it. There's a couple iterations we can talk about, but it's pretty narrow. And then it's a matter of going through the steps to actually get them formally set up. So, ideally, if you could at least give them even charged, a little bit before. Holidays are tricky, but we'll be kind of falling right in the middle there. But if we had at least kind of an initial kickoff somewhere in there, or really the first of the year get going, I think we could do that. One that I think was good with, if we keep this an organic movement, it was a really good comment from the steering committee, is we'll have to see which ones play out. Because right now they're really good ideas. Sometimes you take a really good crack at a really good idea and it doesn't make sense. So then you say, okay, that one's not working, let's try something else. And then we'll see which ones kind of bubble the top, and then we'll see where we can get some good progress.
I think that's important for the young college voice in town too. College students make decisions pretty early on in the academic year about what they're going to participate in throughout the year. People don't join a lot of clubs in March. It tends to be October when they decide this is going to be something I'm going to do this year.
And one of the things I'd like to just kind of add to things, the university does have a new president on board, and while I haven't had a chance to sit down with Mr. Fuller, as we planned, as he said, they're feeding him with a fire hose at this point, and I've been really busy, but I think we're kind of on the cusp where we're going to have a chance to get together, and I really have a sense that this is a guy who's dedicated to improving that relationship between the city and the university. We've made a lot of progress over the last few years with interactions between students and staff and the city staff and residents, and if we can really turn this into administrative cooperation and pulling both entities forward, I think it has great potential, and I see a president who wants to see that happen. So I'm really excited about that prospect and see how that one works out. But Steve, good point of let's let the steering committee do its thing. And I think, Scott, if we just all nod and say, bring us something to create this commission, is that where everybody is, council, and nod,
Okay.
yeah, okay. So, do you feel directed?
Yep, it won't be much, because there's just a couple little iterations to consider. And
Miss former Councilor Coons has something she'd like to add.
Well, I just had a question when we brought up this idea about the commission, because we were talking really about those subcommittees having some kind of, and we don't really have commissions with subcommittees, so I didn't know if that was a separate animal, or if we just create the commission and then they can have subcommittees with some authority or some responsibility or if we needed to enumerate that, that was all.
Yeah, and that's where this one will be a little different, because we really do have some good four focus areas, good comments, so we'll have to kind of see how that works. There's, to make it really simple, there's, you know, the big giant group, and then you break them into, you know, smaller
Yeah,
subcommittees.
it's almost like you're gonna have an executive committee that's the steering committee, and then
That's the other way.
the bigger, you've got this big body called Monmouth Engaged with an executive committee and subcommittees. And,
Right, and that's the other
yeah.
thing, that's where you need to kind of consider. The other one is really the subcommittees are really driving things. And then, like, say you get one person from each committee that's volunteers to stir on the steering
Yep.
committee. That helps with communication. At some point, you also could have requests of some sorts, city policies, funding, and then that'd be an opportunity. If you had a steering committee, then, you know, if each committee's coming up with asks, then at least maybe they could kind of whittle that down, prioritize it, and then come to you at that point, so. So there's just a couple things you'll need to consider. This is a little different, so we'll have to put some consideration in that, but we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Do we plan on, go ahead.
Get your question in first.
Do we plan on utilizing the data? Are we going to be getting any pamphlets back to, you know, spread out and share these results with?
We talked about, you have a report, but we talked about making a few extra pieces for you, a one-pager that has your vision and the ideas, so we are.
Yeah, but you guys will actually get a full report.
I know, but that, I mean,
but
just for the community members, it seems like that.
Yeah, if we could have a one-page summary to drop in the utility bills, that might be a real good piece. That's one, we've proven that's one way that gets every household in town.
And then is the itemizer going to do a follow-up since they've already done another little piece?
I bet if we ask Emily to.
Yeah, I think if it comes time, like if there's a call for volunteers, the interesting one, as Libby noted, you know, you could actually populate the committees almost right now.
Yeah.
You know, but so if you look at that as
Hey, y'all want to keep serving? Everybody's nodding.
If you have the committee, then put the word out, you'd probably fill it in pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So we are in good shape.
Yep, very good.
I just want to say, this is an amazing community, and I really enjoyed working here. And people love Monmouth, and they love living here. I think what they're asking for is just another level of excitement and greatness. And it's a great opportunity. You're not. I saw Lebanon's vision in the paper yesterday, and one of their top thing was to stop drug abuse. And I noticed the position you're in is from a lot of good work over many years that you're in this position.
Well, not to stretch this out or end on a negative note, but I think it was interesting. You talked about negative things that we didn't see in the report necessarily. Right. We need to be proactive about making sure that it doesn't happen.
Right.
Portland went from a bike-friendly city to having real cycling issues in less than a decade. If we've got a good thing now, we need to take these steps to make sure it stays a good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well done.
So we're going to do anything to receive the report, or we're going to just?
I think you can accept it at this point.
If I see council nod, that would mean we accept the final report as.
Well, we haven't seen the final.
Well, the final presentation.
Seen the presentation.
I want to see the report.
So do we want the report in hand, and we'll talk about it next time?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you like, procedurally, that could actually be handed to you. You could have that in advance, and then you could accept that formally, and then we can
And
start
let's
moving
work on a
forward
work session off that
on how
too.
to implement.
Okay, very good.
So we'll have that by the next work session? Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And I think, you know, one last little thought. The first year we had visioning after I became mayor, we had an exercise of a map of Monmouth and penciling in, and Steve, you were there for that. And Darren, were you? You were part of that, I think. And penciling in things we would see 20 years down the road. And a lot of those have kind of drifted along with this council as people have come and gone, and all of a sudden the citizens see some of the same things that we saw, you know, eight and a half years ago. They've now bubbled to the surface as things that, you know, it turns out that we were on the right page. So
that was really neat to see.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. So very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Are there any council comments tonight? And hearing none, I would ask for a motion to adjourn to work session. So moved. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And let's take a 5-minute break.